Good morning, my dear students. So, in previous class, we have studied about the vegetative propagation and the micro propagation. Likewise, the asexual reproductions, how it is occur in the different unicellular organisms, in the multicellular organisms of angiosperms. At the same time, the usefuls towards the horticulture, how these vegetative propagations can be helps towards the horticulture, like each and everything about the vegetative propagation with their merits and demerits we have discussed in our previous class. So, still now whatever we have discussed, all it will comes under the asexual reproduction, whether it may be the micro propagation or whether it may be the tissue culture or whether it may be the vegetative propagation or horticulture methods or artificial methods or the natural methods or the, like we call it as the stems, all these everything whatever we have discussed, all will comes under the asexual reproduction. So, now in this class we have to observe what is a sexual reproduction, then how this sexual reproduction can help for the organisms. These sexual reproductions, what is the role they are playing during the time of a newly formed organisms? What are the changes can be observed by produced through the sexual reproduction? Likewise, we have to discuss what are the characteristic features can be performed by the sexual reproduction. Let us discuss about the sexual reproduction. So, the sexual reproduction, sexual in the sense the two sexes are involved. It means two parents are involved for the process called as sexual reproduction. Reproduction in the sense a production of a new young one by the help of the parent organism. Now, here we called it as a sexual method. It is a kind of method of reproduction by involvement of two parents. By involvement of two opposite parents. So, two opposite parents, it indicates one, it is a male parent and a female parent. The two opposite parents, it indicates the one male parent and other one it is a female parent. Why? Because if we may said two parents, it indicates both will be the same sex. It means only the male organisms, they are not capable to produce the involve the sexual reproduction. They won't produce us any types of the gametes. If they may produce also, the reproduction will not be occur. That's why even both organisms are male organisms, it is not possible for sexual reproduction. Both are females only also, it will not help for the sexual reproduction. During sexual reproduction, it required two opposite parents. The two opposite parents, one it is a male parent, other one it is a female parent. It is the best character of the primary character of the sexual reproduction. Then it is followed by the production of gametes. It means production of the production and involuntary of gametic formation. It is involuntary of the gametic formation. So, here the male individual can produce us the male gametes and the female individual can produce us the female gametes. It means this character of production of the gametes can be seen only in the sexual reproduction. If the process of sexual reproduction has to be work with the involuntary of the gametes only, then after this gametic formation we can observe the gammatic fusion. That gammatic fusion, it indicates the a fertilization process. The fertilization is nothing but of a gammatic fusion. This gammatic fusion is a kind of the character, that means both the gametes, male gamete and female gametes, both they are fused together. Such a mechanism we call it as fertilization. Then after fertilization it leads to the zygote formation, formation of diploid zygote. So, how this zygote is produced in the sense by the result of fertilization mechanism. Now, by fusion of two haploid gametes, gametes are always in haploid condition, such type of the haploid gametes are fused together to form the zygote. So, that is why it is a diploid in condition. The diploid first formed cell in the sexual reproduction, we call it as a zygote formation. Then after zygote formation, it is involved the mechanism, we call it as the zygote will develop into a embryo. That mechanism we called it as embryogenesis. The embryogenesis, it represents the development of embryo, the development of an embryo from a zygote is called as embryogenesis mechanism. The embryogenesis means embryo formation, from where it is occurring, from the zygote. Now, the zygote can undergo a process we call it as cell division and cell differentiation process. Due to that result, the formation of a embryo. So, here the involuntary of cell division is mitotic, that is why the embryo is in diploid condition. There is no change in the newly synthesized embryo in case of their chromosome number, because of involuntary of a mitotic cell division from the zygote. And after this embryo formation, this embryo will develop into a new organism like an individual by differentiation mechanisms and like developmental, that we called it as a developments of an individual the development of an individual by embryo. From embryo, now by the help of an embryo a new individual will be developed, that we called it as the growth and development of a new individual. How it is, an individual is developing in the sense, like you have to remember one sequencing order, that we called it as like the male organisms. Simply we can understand the concept of how a sexual reproduction occur in the sense, one it is the parents, like we called it as the male parent and the female parent. Now these parent can produce us the gametes called as male gametes. It can produce us a male gamete, it can produce us one male gamete. If you have to observe, so this is a male gamete and this we called it as a female gamete. Now by the result of these two, during the time of fertilization, now these two will be fused to form a gammatic fusion condition. That gammatic fusion condition we called it as a fertilization. During fertilization, by the result of fertilization, the male gamete can be interact with the female gamete to form a diploid cell. The diploid cell we called it as a zygote. This is a 2n condition because these gametes are in a haploid condition. These are in haploid condition. By the n plus n result in a 2n it will be comes. Then after these zygote undergoes a cell division function, the cell division and cell differentiation function. So the cell division here mostly it is a mitotic cell division. The cell division is nothing but of the mitotic cell division, and the cell differentiation mechanism, it indicates the development of newly synthesized cells from the parent cell in the form of multiplication, like two daughter cells formation by single parent cell, and the 2 will be developed into 4 cells, 4 will be developed into 8 cells, 8 will develop into a 16 cells, 16 will develop into the 32 cells, 32 cells will develop into the 64 cells, 64 cells will develop into 128 cells, 128 cells will develop into 256 cells. Like these gradual multiplication of the cells, we called it as the cell differentiation mechanism. During this cell differentiation mechanism, the mass of the cells will be increasing gradually. Due to increase of the mass of the cell number, the growth of the cell it will be occur. It means the individual inside the embryo, suppose to find a zygote is in 2n condition, now it undergoes one mitotic cell division, internally formation of 2 cells. Then the 2 cells again develop into 4 cells. That 4 cells again develop into 8 cells. Like continuous cell number it is increasing, automatically the growth and development of the zygote internally. Then it will convert into, the zygote will be convert into a embryo. While how the cell newly synthesized cells will be increasing, then the newly synthesizing embryo will be starts. By the help of newly synthesized embryos, what will happen in the sense, the cell number it is increasing gradually, and different types of the embryonic cells can help for formation of different organs. Take an example of the human body. So, during the time of embryonic condition, our embryonic cells, we called it as the stem cells. Those stem cells can help for development of the brain and development of the vertebral column, a spinal cord, and the development of the lateral appendages like hands, and the development of the legs, and the development of muscles, and the eyes, and the nose, and the digits, and the oral cavity, and the formation of the teeth, and heart formation, and the lung formation, and the digestive tract formation, and the reproductive tract formation, like each and every organ formation should be occur by the help of a embryonic cells only. So, that is why these embryonic cells can play an important role for development of a new individual. So, like during that time also the cell division function and cell differentiation function can be takes place in the stem cells that result in formation of a new organs. Like the zygote will develop into a newly formed embryo. Now, this embryo, inside the embryo, how many cells also present? Each and every cell has diploid number of chromosomes. Then after this embryo undergoes developmental stages to produce a new individual. The new individual is synthesized or formed by the result of a mechanism, we called it as cell differentiation mechanism and the cell division function. So, based on these particular phenomena, the sexual reproduction will be carried. In the sexual reproduction, this basic phenomenon we can observe. So, here, so during this individual formation, the cell divisions will be occur, and during the gametic formation, synthesizing of the gametes, we called it as the gametogenesis. So, like first one we called it as the gametogenesis. Two parents are involved and those parents are capable to produce us two gametes, and that formed gametes will fuse that condition we called it as fertilization. Then result of fertilization, zygote will be formed. The result of this zygote undergoes a cell division function, result in embryo development. Then the embryo developed into a new individual. By the help of embryo, a new individual will be developed. So, this is the basic sequence it is occur in the sexual reproduction. Apart from these, the names can be given, like we called it as sexual reproduction, also we called it as a amphigony, or amphimixis, or otherwise we called it as syngenesis. So, these are the different names of sexual reproduction, the different names of the sexual reproduction, like we called it as the amphigony, amphimixis, and syngenesis. So, based on this amphigony, or some words or some new terminologies can be used during the time of asking the questions with related to the AIPMT and the NEET and the AIMS, like different competitive examinations, they will ask the questions by using different terminologies. So, that is why we have to know sexual reproduction is nothing but of amphigony, amphimixis, and syngenesis. So, thank you. We will continue the next class in next concepts.